Well, there's always misgivings when a law is brought in very quickly, but we're living in extraordinary times. We're effectively at economic war with Russia and with Vladimir Putin, and I think that it was necessary for our Parliament to act very quickly. We have for many, many years been, I'm afraid, beholden to Russian wealth in London, in particular. The property market, particularly the upper end of the property market, has depended to a huge degree on Russian wealth, and frankly, much of it comes from the proceeds of what is effectively organised state criminality, the theft of Russian state assets by oligarchs after the breakup of the Soviet Union. And much of that wealth, criminal wealth, in my view, is still floating around in London in so many ways. And for once on your airwaves, this is a piece of legislation with which I have some sympathy, and indeed I can see why it was necessary to act so quickly to bring it into force.
And on one level, I mean, at least it's there, it's statutory, it's been the subject of debate, not protracted debate, but at least some debate. It's not by executive fiat by the government. So there is some sense of deliberation here. But as you say, it's had to be quick as well. And I wonder, some people will wonder whether it sets perhaps in motion, or at least provides a legal template for the state in the future to say, actually, we don't like you, we'll have what you've got.
Well, I don't think it does. I mean, much of this legislation isn't, in fact, rushed. Much of it was in the planning already, in particular, the Register of Overseas Property Ownership, which is one of the central planks of this legislation. For many years, we've had the situation where overseas corporations could own property in the UK, including some worth tens and tens of millions of pounds. And we had no idea who were the ultimate beneficial owners of the companies behind those properties. So that particular legislation, or that aspect of the legislation, has long been announced and has been given very careful thought. All that's really been rushed through is the approach to sanctions and the seizure of properties which are in the hands of people who are suspected to have links to the Russian regime. And of course, the only reason why it's being rushed is because Vladimir Putin chose to invade Ukraine just a couple of weeks ago. Had he not done so, none of this would have been happening. And I think there are enough safeguards in place. I mean, one of the aspects of the legislation is simply to say that if one of our partner nations or partner organisations like the EU brings in sanctions against somebody, that we can effectively just replicate those sanctions without the need to go through independent process. And we, of course, delegate those sorts of things to our international partners, our trusted international partners, in many different ways. So for me, I think aligning the sanctions regime as between the EU, the US and the UK is something that's very, very important. And I think it could have a big impact on some of the people who have backed Putin all these years.